Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user ThirWayDadNC. Am I the a-hole for telling my father I'll cut ties with him if he doesn't come to my wedding? My 26 female father, 59 male, is a slightly known musician in my home country. Due to his career, he missed out on most of my milestones while I was growing up. School plays, a few birthdays, and both my high school and college graduations are a few. Mostly events he was informed of months in advance and canceled on me either weeks or days before. He always apologized for doing so, but never really seemed to feel guilty. I remember we almost fought once because I didn't want to watch a video he had missed my high school graduation to film. It hurt me so much as a child that I stopped expecting him to show up. It still bothered me when I got older, but at that point I understood that it was his job and I should be grateful he even had one. Now I'm getting married in 2 months. My fiance, 28 male, and I have been planning this wedding for a year and a half. The date was decided and invitations were sent months ago. Almost every guest has already RSVP'd. I've reminded my father of the date several times this past year, and he kept assuring me he had blocked the entire week of the wedding and would be there. A couple of days ago, my father called to inform me he had to schedule a concert for my wedding day. He apologized and said he'd make it up to me with a gift. I don't want a gift. I want my father to come to my wedding. So I told him that either he figured out a way to reschedule, which I know he could probably do if he tried, or I'd cut ties with him. What followed was one of the biggest fights we've ever had. He called me ungrateful, spoiled, and selfish for giving him that kind of ultimatum and expecting him to change his work schedule for my benefit, which he has asked me to do on many occasions before. He yelled and I held myself not to yell back. We're still fighting over this. Most of my family is on my side, though both my mom, divorced from my dad, and my fiance have warned me not to make any moves I might regret. My sister, 20 female, is on my father's side, which doesn't surprise me. I love my father and I really don't want to stop talking to him, but I'm done with him, expecting to be able to miss out on my life with no consequences. That being said, I'd be lying if I said that I don't feel guilty. Just writing this all down made me feel like a huge brat. So, am I the a-hole? Well, OP, no, I don't think you're the a-hole. I think you're just a daughter that's expecting her dad to show up on her most important day so far, which is the wedding day. Now, I don't know what your dad's career is like, but still, if it was me, there is nothing that would stop me from being there for my daughter. Now, the thing is, OP, I don't think your dad's gonna show up with an ultimatum. I don't think he's gonna show up at all, considering instead of being like, you know what? You're right, I'm screwing up as a dad. He decided to call you selfish and a brat for expecting him to be a father. That's just wild in my opinion. So I know this might suck, OP, but I would tell him something similar to what you said on your post in the beginning, where you said that you just stopped expecting him to show up. Something like, you know what, dad? Fine, it's all good, don't worry about it. Go do your concert, have fun. But just know that I'm done pursuing having a relationship with you. I'm not cutting you out. I'm just done pursuing it. So don't worry, I'm gonna find someone else to walk me down the aisle, and really, don't worry about a gift because I don't want it. And if he starts trying to pick a fight with you, you tell him, I'm not gonna have this conversation. I'm gonna focus on my wedding, so yeah, I'll see you there, hopefully. Bye. And then you hang up and you focus on your wedding with the people that clearly love you, like your fiance and your mom. I know it sounds like giving up, but the way I see it is that you're just focusing your attention on the positives. And your dad is definitely a source of stress, so let's just move on from that. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Prairie Girl 5263 says, not the a-hole. He looked at his availability and chose to schedule a concert on your wedding day. There are 364 other days in the year. Congrats on the upcoming nuptials. Sorry your dad sucks. Living in the Middle says, what will you tell your children when Papa misses their milestone? Oh, that's just how he is. Make the choice now if you're going to subject your future children to the same pain as you. And Opie responds, I wouldn't be surprised if I had to force a relationship between him and my future children. My paternal grandfather died when I was 15 and I barely remember his voice, because not only did we only see each other once or twice a year, he lived in a different city. He also never tried to have a conversation with me. Sharwin says, not the a-hole. Your fiance and your mom aren't really getting it seems. Yes, you could regret cutting ties with him. Yes, it's gonna hurt, but it's gonna hurt more trying to pretend that one day he might come around, having a constant reminder of all the hurt he brought you with his absence. But it's only for you to decide how important that is to you. Additional information from Opie's comments. We've had a rocky relationship for a little over a decade now for various reasons, including his tendency to use how much money he'd spend on my sister and me against us. That's why I try not to ask him for anything. It's got nothing to do with why I'm threatening to cut contact though. I couldn't care less about presents, especially coming from my father. Pretty much anything he gives me comes with strings attached. As he explained on the phone, he forgot about the wedding day while scheduling the concerts with his manager. His current girlfriend reminded him hours later. I knew he couldn't actually block the whole week. He'd promised the same thing before my high school graduation, but he could still avoid it. Before he cancelled on me, he specifically said he wanted to walk me down the aisle. I didn't want him to. I hate the whole giving the bride away thing, but I'd agreed because I thought it would be important for him. Opie's edit. I thought I'd clarify some things. My mom and my fiance are 100% on my side. They told me to be careful because they know I don't really want to go no contact. Also, my mom has barely spoken to my father in almost 20 years, and my fiance is with me because we love each other, not because of who my father is. My father is not a struggling artist. He's been in this line of work since before I was born. I wouldn't consider him rich, but he lives more than just comfortably. If I thought he couldn't afford to reschedule a concert, I wouldn't blame him for not being able to come to the wedding. The specific concert is in a smaller city. For these, he can usually reschedule until ticket sales are announced, which they haven't been yet. There is some bureaucracy involved, which is why I've never asked him to do so before, but it is doable. I do have other people who can walk me down the aisle. My stepdad, which would make my dad furious, so that I might do it purely out of pettiness, and at least 2 of my best friends would be more than willing to. Also, I've tried acting indifferent before. It doesn't work. He interprets it as forgiveness. It's the reason why he still does it. Also, he isn't paying for any part of the wedding. He offered to, but I declined. I don't live with him anymore, and both my fiance and I have good jobs. When I was younger, I told myself that once I didn't need his money anymore, I'd never ask for it again. And yes, he paid child support and provided for both me and my sister. Finally, about my sister, she isn't the golden child. He missed many of her milestones as well. However, she keeps taking his side for 3 reasons. 1, she still lives with him. 2, she has been belittling me since she was in elementary school. And 3, this is probably my fault, but I've been sheltering her from these things her entire life. The only reason why our father went to her high school graduation is because I berated him. As a teen, I took over her fights with him and played mediator whenever I had to. Basically, she never had many problems with him because of me. She doesn't know half of what I've done for her, and I don't really want her to. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, and in the additional context, we understand that the dad is not just having a scheduling conflict or whatever. He's just a bad father, period. He holds money over his kids' heads, he uses that kind of guilt, which of course sucks, and he could definitely reschedule this concert, he's just choosing not to. Now, OP has given us 2 updates to this story. So let's move on with the first one, but before that, if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and of course, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Now, let's continue with the first update. Hey guys, a lot has happened, but I'll try to keep this short. I'll start off by saying that your comments on my first post were very eye-opening. Though some of the assumptions you made were wrong, I could see where they all came from, and most of what you said was spot on and it was painful to read. Someone said that my father doesn't see me as a person, but as an extension of himself. That one hurt the most because it's the best definition of my relationship with my father I've ever seen. My father wasn't neglectful in the traditional sense. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and my mom had primary custody of me and my sister, but we still went to his place several times a week. My mother is a teacher and couldn't raise us on her salary alone, so he was our main financial supporter even after the divorce. Because of all of this, he seems to believe he is the best father ever. Whenever we fought, he always insisted I was wrong and ungrateful. Those same arguments were used whenever I demonstrated I was upset over him missing out on my milestones. In his head, for instance, I couldn't get angry if he missed my high school graduation or if he didn't pay attention to any of the projects I developed in college because he was the one paying for my education. I decided to stop complaining about this when I was younger, having realized I wouldn't be able to get him to see my side. This wedding incident felt like a turning point though. Especially since he wasn't paying for anything this time. It made me accept that he doesn't care how much he contributed anymore, but still believes I don't have the right to be upset. I now realize there's no winning this. If he doesn't come, I'll be devastated. If he does, I'll always remember I had to force my father to come to my wedding. At this point, I'm not even sure which is worse. So, a few days ago, I had a discussion with my father over the phone, in which I expressed all of the above and more. And as expected, he called me dramatic, accused me of alienating myself, and berated me for talking to him the way I did. I hung up on him. This is how our fights have gone since I was a teenager, and it never solves anything. We haven't spoken since. I sent him a long text, basically saying I didn't want to hear from him until he was ready to both give me a sincere apology and own up to the fact that the status of our relationship was his fault. This is all wishful thinking. I really don't think either is going to happen. I love my father and I know he loves me to bits, but I can't do this anymore. He's been around my entire life and still barely knows me for who I am. It's his turn to make that effort. Right now, I'm trying to muster up excitement for my wedding. I lost most of these past weeks. My fiance, my mom, and my friends are all trying to cheer me up, and it's starting to work. I'm definitely feeling a lot better than last week. I'm really grateful to have them in my life. So that's it for now. Thank you all for your support on my previous post. Well, OP, yeah, it's clear. Your dad sucks. Also, you say he loves you to bits, but he barely knows who you are? I don't think he loves you. I think he loves what he sees of himself in you, if he sees anything. And I have to say, I think it's heartbreaking that you're still holding a candle for your father, wishfully thinking that he will show up. I'm pretty sure he won't. I'm really sorry, OP. In any case, we still haven't lost hope yet because there is a final update. So let's move on with that and see how this story finishes. Hey guys, this will probably be my last update. First of all, I'm happy to announce that I finally got married to the love of my life almost 2 weeks ago. For the last 6 years, this man has been my rock, my best friend, and my biggest supporter. And I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with him. I give him, my mom, and my friends, especially my awesome maid of honor, full credit for helping me regain my excitement for my wedding. And it was amazing. Everyone had fun, the food was great, and no one got too drunk, a constant concern of mine. Some of my friends have that tendency. I went home knowing I'd spent my wedding day surrounded by people who love me, but my father wasn't there. After thinking very carefully about the matter and talking about it with my paternal family, all of whom are taking my side, I realized I wasn't ready to go no contact, especially since I will have to see him at least once a year for the holidays. But I legitimately don't want to invest in our relationship anymore. So for now, I'm going extremely low contact. I will act civil, though probably cold, whenever I'm around him, but that's it. I'm not answering his calls or texts, he's no longer welcome at my place, and I'm no longer inviting him to anything, including my birthdays, work events, and my future children's milestones. I'm leaving the door open in case he ever wants to try to make an effort to be better. Therapy, apologies, and actually caring about my accomplishments, but I'm more than ready to close it. I ended up talking to him one more time, again through the phone, a couple of weeks after my last update. I told him all of the above, and when he yelled at me, I asked him to name a single project I worked on in college. I had told him about 4 and explained one of them in detail several times, none of which he'd remember the next day. He couldn't. I asked him to describe one of them, at least loosely. He couldn't either. I kept asking him about multiple details about my life that I clearly remembered telling him about, always at least twice. Nada. He claimed I'd never told him about any of this stuff. I said that not only had I informed him of these things frequently, but we'd also had that exact conversation dozens of times before, and the outcome is always the same. He's a great father. No, he's not. And I'm ungrateful and dramatic. Okay, sarcastic. I told him I'll always love him and be grateful for the things he did for me, but I'm done. He only cares about me as his daughter and not a grown woman who exists outside of his life. He never actually cared about anything that wasn't about him. I'm done with him, thinking I'm not worth the same respect that I have bent over backwards to give him my whole life. We haven't spoken since. My cousin told me her mom, his older sister, berated him on the phone a few days later. My mom has offered to do the same, but I declined. He's been talking to my sister about it, but I told her to stay out of it. Things have been getting a bit better between me and her. I considered having my stepfather walk me down the aisle, but he remembered me saying I never wanted my dad to give me away in the first place, so he encouraged me to do things my way. I ended up walking alone to a string version of Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. About halfway through, my 3-year-old goddaughter came up to me and grabbed my hand, and we walked the rest of the way together. It was perfect, and so much better than anything I could have planned. My father texted me during the wedding, probably to ask for pictures. I didn't reply. For now, I feel numb. There is very little about the situation that didn't break my heart, and I'm not exactly happy about the outcome. Most of the time, I'm too sad to think about the silver linings, but too exhausted actually to feel sad. That being said, I'm also ecstatic. I never thought I'd be as happy about my wedding as I am. We also just got back from our honeymoon, so it's been easier to focus on the good times. Finally, some people have PM'd me asking who my father is or even speculating about it. Please don't. This is still my family. In spite of everything, he is still my father and I love him. I came here for advice, not revenge or sabotage. I wouldn't have created a throwaway if I didn't want to be kept anonymous. That's all, folks. Thank you for all your kind words and advice. Well, OP, congratulations on getting married. Apparently, it was fantastic. Your honeymoon was great, so only good things coming up, and I think you're making the right decision regarding your dad. It's incredibly disappointing because he should be a really important person in your life, but he decided to just be an a-hole, and in the long run, it's just going to be his loss. So for you, OP, here's wishing you the best in the future. Thank you for sharing and take care. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Sparks32. Boss can't hire with crappy wages, so demotes me instead. Okay, but it'll cost you £1 million. A few years ago, I worked at a janky 2-bit company. The boss thought he was Billy Big Bollocks and God's gift simultaneously. He had such a big head that I'm impressed he could get through doorways. He used to drink beer at his desk for lunch and would often arrive at work late. He was also an insufferable muscle bro and walked around as if carrying rolls of carpet under each arm. Prick. A few months into my time there, the company started winning large orders, so he asks me to set up a small-scale production line to increase capacity and tells me the new hire would be situated there. I design it, set it up, and test it. It all works, and I'm feeling a sense of pride with what I've accomplished. It worked like a dream. I was confident it would work really well for the new hire. Because I'm an engineer by trade, everything was perfect and only I knew how to fix the broken crap. Nobody else asked how it worked before making some very detrimental decisions. A while later, there was an issue. He couldn't hire anyone willing to accept such a crappy wage and boring work. So Billy Big Bollocks had a bright idea to demote me and make me governor of my creation. No way. Not for £9,000 less. I immediately started job hunting and told them if that's your final offer to regard tomorrow as my final day. He panics that he's committed the company to a £1 million order due for shipping in 3 days. During his alcohol-fueled panic, he told me to write up highly detailed technical manuals and processes for my replacement. The production line included some precise handwork. Piss off. I can't do that in one day. He also didn't specify what they should contain. And considering I had no help from him with this project, just complaints, I thought, F it, for sure he got his manuals. I created Word documents with convincing titles like Technical Manual Product Version 2.0 and How to Do This Precise Task. Inside the documents were, for example, the surprised Pikachu phase and Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys looking lost. Then, below just one line of text reading, this manual contains all the information I could find or was given. The file sizes would also indicate a lot of text was contained within thanks to the images. Therefore, at face value, they looked legitimate. I saved them to my laptop in an equally legitimate looking folder that afternoon. Early the next morning, I came to work to collect my belongings and do some handovers and found the laptop had vanished. I said my goodbyes to my colleagues and looked over to see him looking incensed with a beer on one hand. He was so angry he didn't look up from his desk. A friend told me later that the company missed the production deadline despite him working 12-hour days to try to catch up. Apparently, the client was extremely pissed off. Don't screw over good people, prick. Well, OP, beautiful. Nothing else to say because you said it all in that last sentence. Just don't screw over good people. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.